Welcome to After the Divorce Stories, where every ending hides a new beginning, every heartbreak reveals a deeper truth, and life after divorce is never quite what it seems. Get comfortable, because today's story is filled with love, betrayal, unexpected twists, and a lesson you may never forget. Now, let's begin.
The cruelest laughter is often the sound that echoes just before destiny changes its mind. Claire Bennett tightened her grip around the worn leather handle of a single navy suitcase as the front door clicked shut behind her with a quiet finality that seemed louder than any slammed door ever could have been. The late October air carried the scent of damp leaves across the quiet suburban neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio. While golden afternoon sunlight stretched long shadows across the driveway she had swept thousands of times during 12 years of marriage. Every flower lining the walkway had once been planted by her hands. Every curtain inside that house had been chosen after careful thought. Every holiday dinner had been prepared while believing she was helping build a future that would last forever. Now none of it belonged to her anymore. Ryan Mitchell stood beneath the covered porch wearing an expensive tailored jacket that Claire had once encouraged him to buy before his first executive promotion. His hands rested comfortably inside his pockets, and the faint smile on his face slowly widened into open amusement as he watched his former wife walk toward the sidewalk carrying everything she legally owned. A single suitcase, no moving truck, no family heirlooms, no investment accounts, no celebration of freedom. Just one woman leaving with almost nothing except the quiet dignity she refused to surrender. Ryan shook his head with a short laugh that carried easily through the still afternoon. "You will be back," he said confidently. "You have no idea how hard the real world is. Give it a few months, Claire. Pride does not pay the bills." Claire stopped for only a heartbeat. She never turned around. She simply looked ahead toward the neighborhood street glowing beneath the fading sunlight. Her shoulders remained straight, her breathing steady, and her footsteps never slowed. His laughter followed her until she reached the waiting rideshare parked beside the curb, but she did not allow herself the luxury of looking back. The driver quietly loaded her suitcase into the trunk without asking questions, offering only a gentle smile that somehow carried more kindness than she had received inside her own home for years. As the car pulled away, the familiar streets drifted past the window like scenes from someone else's life. The neighborhood cafe where she had met Ryan before they married. The elementary school where they once talked about raising children. The grocery store where she memorized every item he preferred while forgetting the dreams she had once carried for herself. None of those places felt like home anymore. Time moved with relentless patience. 3 years later, downtown Chicago shimmered beneath the morning sun as mirrored skyscrapers reflected endless blue across the skyline. Hundreds of professionals streamed toward office buildings carrying coffee cups, laptops, and quiet ambition. Ryan adjusted the collar of his new dress shirt before entering the gleaming headquarters of Bennett Innovations, grateful that after months of unemployment, he had finally secured another management position. The polished marble lobby stretched upward beneath towering glass walls, displaying a company logo that investors across America had begun recognizing with growing respect. Employees greeted one another with genuine enthusiasm instead of forced corporate smiles, and fresh white orchids decorated the reception area with understated elegance. Ryan glanced toward the digital display listing the executive leadership team for the mandatory company welcome meeting scheduled in 15 minutes. His confident expression slowly disappeared. At the very top of the screen, above every department head and every senior executive, appeared a familiar name that instantly stole the air from his lungs. Claire Bennett, founder and chief executive officer. Ryan continued staring at the glowing executive directory as though the polished glass itself had become impossible to understand. Employees walked past him with practiced confidence, greeting one another with warm smiles before disappearing toward elevators that carried them to different floors inside the impressive headquarters. None of them noticed the storm quietly forming behind his expression. Claire Bennett, founder and chief executive officer. The words remained perfectly still while his heartbeat refused to do the same. 3 years earlier, he had believed he knew exactly how her story would end. He remembered watching her leave with that single suitcase, convinced she would eventually call, apologize, and ask for another chance. She never did. Instead, The silence stretched into weeks, then months, until her absence became something he rarely discussed. Friends occasionally asked how she was doing, and Ryan always shrugged with careless confidence, saying she had never understood business anyway. He convinced himself that the woman who had once spent evenings balancing household budgets and organizing community fundraisers could never survive inside the competitive corporate world. What he never admitted, even to himself, was how much of his own success had quietly depended on her steady presence. Before every important presentation, Claire had stayed awake proofreading his reports while he practiced speeches. When clients visited their home, she remembered names, anniversaries, favorite restaurants, and details that transformed casual business dinners into lasting professional relationships. She had celebrated every promotion without asking for recognition, believing they were building a future together instead of a career for only one person. Ryan accepted every compliment from colleagues without mentioning how often Claire had solved problems before anyone else noticed they existed. As his title grew larger, so did his confidence, and somewhere along the way gratitude slowly disappeared. The marriage became another achievement he believed would always remain waiting for him no matter how little attention he offered. While Ryan climbed higher inside his company, Claire quietly became invisible inside her own life. Her college degree gathered dust inside a closet, replaced by grocery lists, calendars, and endless responsibilities that no performance review would ever acknowledge. Yet she never complained. She believed sacrifice was another word for love. Everything changed the afternoon Ryan announced that he wanted a divorce. His decision sounded rehearsed, delivered with the detached certainty of someone discussing quarterly financial projections instead of 12 years of shared memories. He insisted they had simply grown apart. Claire listened without raising her voice. She did not beg. She did not argue. She only asked whether the years they built together had meant anything at all. Ryan hesitated for only a second before answering that people changed. Those two words quietly closed a chapter that Claire had spent more than a decade writing. The legal process ended quickly because there was very little left in her own name. Most investments, business interests, and major assets belonged to Ryan. Claire accepted the outcome without bitterness because she understood something that the paperwork could never measure. Skills could be rebuilt. Confidence could return. Character could not be taken away by any courtroom. She walked away carrying almost nothing that money could value. But somewhere beneath the heartbreak, beneath the uncertainty, and beneath the painful silence that followed her into each unfamiliar morning, a small part of her still believed that losing everything familiar might someday become the first honest step toward discovering who she had always been capable of becoming. Claire rented a studio apartment above a neighborhood bakery on the north side of Columbus, where every morning began before sunrise with the warm scent of fresh bread drifting through the old wooden floorboards. The apartment was barely large enough for a small table, a narrow bed, and a second-hand desk placed beside a single window, yet for the first time in years, every decision inside those walls belonged entirely to her. She created a schedule and taped it above the desk. During the day, she accepted temporary administrative jobs, bookkeeping assignments, and customer service contracts that paid just enough to cover rent, groceries, and utilities. Every evening, she studied business strategy, finance, software development, and leadership through online courses offered by respected universities. While the city outside gradually became quiet, the glow from her laptop remained the brightest light in the room. There were nights when exhaustion tempted her to stop, but every time she remembered Ryan. Laughing as she walked away with one suitcase, she closed her eyes for only a moment before opening another textbook instead of surrendering. Slowly, she discovered something she had forgotten during 12 years of marriage. She was exceptionally good at recognizing patterns that other people ignored. She noticed how small businesses struggled to organize customer relationships and community outreach using outdated systems that wasted both time and money. She filled notebook after notebook with sketches, ideas, and practical solutions until one concept refused to leave her mind. It was not built around complicated technology. It was built around making everyday work easier for ordinary people. She saved every extra dollar until she could purchase reliable equipment and hire a freelance software developer to help transform her vision into a working prototype. Progress came one careful step at a time, measured in small victories instead of dramatic breakthroughs. A local family business agreed to test her platform. Then another. Positive recommendations quietly spread through neighboring communities because the product solved real problems instead of chasing fashionable trends. Nearly 18 months after leaving her marriage behind, Claire attended a regional entrepreneurship conference in Chicago using money she had reluctantly spent on a discounted registration ticket. She expected to spend the day taking notes and introducing herself to strangers who would probably forget her name within minutes. Instead, during a panel discussion about sustainable business growth, she asked a thoughtful question that caught the attention of Ethan Carter, a respected investor known for supporting founders with long-term vision rather than quick profits. After the session ended, Ethan approached her with genuine curiosity instead of polished salesmanship. He did not ask about her past, her divorce, or her personal struggles. He asked about her customers, her strategy, and the problem she believed deserved solving. Claire answered every question with quiet confidence earned through countless lonely nights of work. Ethan listened far more than he spoke. Before leaving, he handed her a simple business card without making grand promises. He said that successful companies were usually built by people who understood real life before they understood boardrooms, and he invited her to schedule a meeting whenever she believed her business was ready for serious investment. Claire slipped the card into her notebook beside the first sketches of her idea. She walked back into the cool evening air feeling something she had not experienced in years. It was not relief. It was not revenge. It was the steady confidence that the future had finally begun to notice her determination. Claire returned to Columbus carrying far more than a business card. She carried the rare feeling that someone had evaluated her ideas without first measuring the failures of her past. During the following months, her calendar became a collection of early mornings, late evenings, and carefully planned meetings. Every improvement to her software platform came directly from conversations with business owners who trusted her enough to explain their daily frustrations. She listened more than she spoke, filled notebooks with observations, and quietly transformed practical problems into elegant solutions. When she finally scheduled a meeting with Ethan Carter, she arrived carrying a modest presentation instead of exaggerated promises. Ethan studied every financial projection, every customer testimonial, and every development milestone before asking only one question. He wanted to know whether she planned to build a company she could quickly sell or a company that would still matter 10 years later. Claire answered without hesitation that she wanted to build something people would rely on long after the excitement of launch day disappeared. Ethan smiled for the first time that afternoon because he recognized discipline instead of ambition alone. He agreed to become the company's first major investor, but he insisted on one condition. Claire would remain the decision-maker. He explained that capital could accelerate growth, but conviction had to remain in the hands of the founder. Bennett Innovations officially opened its first office inside a renovated brick building overlooking the Chicago River. The space was modest compared to established technology firms, with exposed beams, simple furniture, and whiteboards covered in handwritten ideas. Yet every employee who joined believed they were building something meaningful. Claire knew every member of the small team by name. She celebrated birthdays, welcomed honest disagreements, and encouraged people to solve problems together rather than compete for attention. Ethan visited regularly, offering guidance only when requested. He never treated Claire like someone he had rescued because he knew she had already rescued herself before they ever met. Word gradually spread through the business community that Bennett Innovations delivered dependable technology supported by exceptional customer service. New contracts arrived from healthcare practices, nonprofit organizations, educational institutions, and regional businesses looking for practical software instead of complicated systems. Revenue grew steadily, followed by additional investment rounds that strengthened the company without sacrificing its original values. While Claire's world expanded through careful planning and patient leadership, Ryan's career quietly began moving in the opposite direction. The corporation where he had spent years climbing the executive ladder announced a major restructuring after several disappointing quarters. Departments merged, leadership changed, and experienced managers suddenly found themselves competing for fewer positions. Ryan believed his record would protect him, but confidence alone could not reverse changing priorities. After months of uncertainty, his position disappeared during another round of corporate reductions. Interviews followed, Yet each opportunity seemed to end with polite rejection letters or silence. Savings that once felt substantial gradually became thinner as weeks turned into months. One evening, while searching through dozens of job postings from his apartment, Ryan noticed an opening for a senior operations manager at Bennett Innovations. Industry articles praised the company for innovation, financial stability, and an employee culture unlike anything found at larger corporations. The salary was competitive, the benefits were excellent, and the role perfectly matched his experience. He studied the company website without paying attention to the founder's biography, assuming the unfamiliar surname represented someone he had never met. Confident that this position could restore the career he believed had only temporarily slowed, Ryan submitted his application before midnight, completely unaware that every step was leading him toward the woman whose determination he had once mistaken for weakness. Ryan received the offer letter 2 days later while sitting at the small kitchen table of his apartment, and for the first time in months he allowed himself to believe that his career was finally recovering. The position offered stability, generous benefits, and the opportunity to help manage operations for one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the Midwest. He accepted within an hour, never bothering to read beyond the summary because he assumed he already understood everything that mattered. Bennett Innovations was simply another successful corporation led by executives he had never met. On Monday morning, he arrived nearly 30 minutes early, wearing a freshly pressed navy suit and carrying the same leather briefcase that had accompanied him throughout the most successful years of his career. The lobby felt different from every other corporate headquarters he had entered. Instead of silent tension, employees greeted one another by name. New hires were welcomed with genuine smiles instead of hurried handshakes. Fresh flowers decorated the reception desk, sunlight poured through towering glass walls, and framed photographs displayed volunteer events, scholarship programs, and community partnerships rather than awards celebrating quarterly profits. Ryan noticed the atmosphere but dismissed it as clever branding. During orientation, the human resources director explained that the company measured success through innovation, integrity, teamwork, and long-term relationships with both employees and customers. Ryan politely listened while mentally reviewing operational strategies he hoped would impress senior leadership. After receiving his identification badge, he joined several other managers for a guided tour through departments filled with collaborative workspaces, quiet meeting rooms, and engineers discussing ideas around large digital displays. Every team member they passed appeared focused yet surprisingly relaxed, creating an environment unlike the competitive offices Ryan had always considered normal. Near the executive floor, the guide paused before a wall displaying the company's history. Ryan glanced briefly at photographs showing the organization's first tiny office overlooking the Chicago River. Early employees gathered around folding tables, and a woman shaking hands with business owners during the company's earliest days. He did not stop long enough to examine the images carefully because another employee called the group toward the conference center where the official welcome meeting would begin. Inside the spacious auditorium, hundreds of employees gradually filled their seats while soft instrumental music played in the background. Ryan selected a place near the center, believing it would offer the best view of the executive team. Conversations around him reflected admiration rather than obligation. People spoke about leadership with unusual respect, praising fairness, transparency, and the founder's willingness to personally mentor young professionals. Several employees mentioned how the company had expanded without abandoning the values established during its earliest days. Ryan found himself unexpectedly curious about the executive responsible for building such loyalty. A few moments later, Ethan Carter entered through a side door. Ryan immediately recognized him from countless financial magazines and business interviews. Quiet conversations throughout the auditorium instantly softened into respectful silence as Ethan exchanged warm greetings with employees instead of moving directly toward the stage. Ryan straightened in his chair, surprised that an investor of Ethan's reputation appeared so personally involved with daily operations. Before he could fully process the moment, the room lights gently dimmed. The large presentation screen illuminated with the company logo, followed by a simple message welcoming everyone to another year of growth. Then every conversation disappeared completely as footsteps echoed from backstage. Ryan lifted his eyes toward the entrance. expecting to meet the celebrated founder for the very first time, unaware that the next few seconds would permanently reshape everything he believed about the woman he had once watched walk away carrying only a single suitcase. The auditorium remained completely silent as the footsteps from backstage grew closer, measured and unhurried, carrying none of the dramatic confidence Ryan had expected from the founder of one of the country's fastest-growing technology companies. When Claire Bennett stepped into the light, the room immediately rose to its feet in a standing ovation that seemed to arrive naturally rather than by obligation. Ryan did not stand. He could not. His hands remained frozen against the arms of his chair, while every carefully constructed assumption from the past 3 years collapsed without making a sound. Claire looked remarkably different from the woman who had once left their home carrying a single suitcase. Yet the greatest change had nothing to do with the elegant charcoal business suit she wore or the quiet confidence reflected in her posture. The difference lived in her eyes. They no longer searched for approval. They no longer carried the uncertainty of someone waiting to be chosen. They belonged to a leader who had already discovered her own worth. Claire thanked everyone for attending the annual company gathering with a calm voice that filled the auditorium without ever becoming loud. She spoke about responsibility instead of success, about trust instead of profits, and about building a workplace where every employee could contribute meaningful ideas regardless of title. She never mentioned awards, market valuations, or headlines. Instead, she praised the engineers who solved difficult problems, the customer support representatives who patiently guided frustrated clients, the custodial staff who prepared the building before sunrise, and the managers who quietly encouraged young employees to grow. Ryan listened in disbelief because the woman speaking on stage sounded nothing like the version of Claire he had convinced himself had been incapable of understanding business. She understood leadership in ways he had never considered. When Claire finished, she welcomed Ethan Carter onto the stage. Another wave of applause filled the room as Ethan accepted the microphone with his usual understated composure. He smiled toward Claire before facing the audience. He explained that investors were often praised for recognizing valuable companies, but he believed the greatest investment was recognizing remarkable people before the rest of the world noticed them. He recalled their first conversation at the entrepreneurship conference, describing how Claire had spoken with unusual clarity about serving customers rather than impressing competitors. He admitted that providing financial support had been one of the easiest decisions of his career because determination, integrity, and humility could never be manufactured inside a boardroom. Then he paused briefly before saying that Bennett Innovations had never been built by extraordinary luck. It had been built by an extraordinary woman who refused to let disappointment define the rest of her life. The audience applauded even more enthusiastically than before. Claire accepted the recognition with a modest smile, thanking Ethan for believing in her vision while reminding everyone that no company became successful through one person alone. She invited the newest employees to help shape the organization's future because fresh perspectives often produce the strongest ideas. Ryan finally rose with everyone else, but his applause felt strangely heavy. He remembered every opportunity he had failed to appreciate, every quiet contribution Claire had once made without asking for acknowledgement, and every careless word he had spoken the afternoon she walked away. Standing among hundreds of employees who genuinely admired her, he understood a truth that no promotion, salary, or executive title had ever taught him. Claire had not become extraordinary after leaving him. She had always possessed that strength. He had simply been too proud to recognize it when she was standing beside him. The excitement from the company gathering gradually settled into the rhythm of an ordinary workday, but nothing felt ordinary to Ryan anymore. Every hallway he walked through reminded him that he was no longer entering an office as someone who expected admiration. He was simply another manager inside a company built by the woman he had once underestimated. During his first week, Claire never singled them out, never referenced their past, and never allowed personal history to influence professional decisions. She greeted him with the same composed courtesy she extended to every new employee. She reviewed reports with careful attention, asked thoughtful questions about operational improvements, and thanked team members whenever they contributed useful ideas. Ryan had prepared himself for humiliation, believing she might use her position to remind him of everything he had lost. Instead, she offered him something far more difficult to face: she treated him fairly. The absence of revenge became its own quiet lesson. Every morning Claire arrived before most executives. Carrying a cup of coffee from the neighborhood cafe she had continued visiting since the company's earliest days. She often walked through different departments before entering her office, stopping to ask engineers about ongoing projects, congratulating interns for creative solutions, and listening patiently whenever employees described challenges that needed attention. People did not lower their voices when she approached. They smiled. They trusted her. Ryan watched these moments from a distance and slowly realized that respect earned through consistency looked entirely different from authority demanded through position. One afternoon, he attended an operations meeting where a scheduling problem threatened to delay an important software rollout. Several managers offered complicated solutions that required longer hours and additional expenses. Claire listened quietly until everyone had finished speaking. She then asked a series of simple questions that shifted the entire discussion toward cooperation between departments instead of assigning blame. Within 20 minutes, the team developed a practical plan that reduced costs while protecting the project timeline. As the meeting ended, Claire thanked every participant individually before leaving the room without claiming credit for the outcome. Ryan remained seated for a moment, remembering countless meetings from his previous career where executives competed to appear smarter than everyone else. Claire seemed interested only in finding the best answer, regardless of who suggested it. Days turned into weeks, and Ryan discovered another unexpected truth. Bennett Innovations was succeeding because its culture reflected Claire's character. Employees stayed with the company because they felt valued. Customers remained loyal because promises were consistently honored. Managers were encouraged to mentor instead of intimidate. The principles displayed on the lobby wall were not marketing slogans. They were practiced every day. Ethan visited the headquarters frequently, but he never interrupted Claire's leadership. He quietly observed meetings, shared advice during private conversations, and celebrated the accomplishments of the entire organization rather than seeking attention for himself. Watching them together, Ryan recognized a partnership built on mutual respect instead of competition. Ethan admired Claire's judgment without trying to control it, while Claire appreciated his experience without depending on it. Their confidence in one another came from trust that had been earned over time. Late one evening, as most employees prepared to leave, Ryan passed Claire's office and noticed the lights were still on. Through the open doorway, he saw her reviewing scholarship applications funded by the company's education foundation. She carefully read every page instead of delegating the responsibility, occasionally writing handwritten notes of encouragement for students she had never met. There were no cameras, no reporters, and no audience to witness the quiet generosity unfolding inside that office. Ryan continued walking without disturbing her, carrying with him the growing understanding that the greatest difference between the woman he remembered and the leader she had become was not success itself. It was that success had revealed the strength, kindness, and integrity that had always existed beneath the surface, qualities he had once overlooked because he had been too focused on himself to truly see the remarkable person standing beside him. Several weeks passed before Ryan finally gathered the courage to knock on the open door of Claire's office after most employees had gone home. The evening skyline shimmered beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the quiet hum of the city blended with the soft tapping of Claire's keyboard as she finished reviewing a proposal. She looked up, offered the same calm smile she gave everyone else, and invited him inside. Ryan remained standing for a moment, suddenly realizing that the conversation he had rehearsed countless times sounded painfully inadequate now that he faced the person who deserved to hear it. He admitted that he had spent years believing success belonged only to those whose names appeared on office doors or executive reports. He confessed that he had accepted praise for accomplishments that had quietly depended upon Claire's encouragement, patience, and practical wisdom. Looking around the office she had built through determination rather than privilege, he finally understood how little he had appreciated the sacrifices she once made without expecting recognition. Claire listened without interrupting. She did not rush to comfort him, nor did she allow the silence to become uncomfortable. When Ryan apologized for laughing as she walked away with almost nothing, his voice carried genuine regret instead of a hope for forgiveness. He admitted that the memory had followed him ever since he saw her name on the executive directory. Claire folded her hands together and looked toward the city lights before answering. She said that there had been a time when those memories brought pain every day, but time had changed their meaning. The hardest moments of her life had forced her to discover strengths she might never have uncovered otherwise. She explained that rebuilding from almost nothing had taught her confidence that could not be purchased, borrowed, or taken away. Ryan quietly asked whether she hated him. Claire shook her head with gentle certainty. Hatred, she said, would have allowed the past to continue controlling her future. Letting go had required far more courage than holding on to resentment. She wanted peace more than revenge, and peace had become possible only after she stopped measuring her worth through someone else's opinion. Ryan lowered his eyes, accepting that some opportunities could never be recovered. Claire thanked him for speaking honestly, then reminded him that everyone inside the company was expected to move forward with integrity, including both of them. Their shared history would remain part of their lives, but it would never determine how they treated one another in the present. As Ryan stood to leave, Ethan appeared at the office doorway after finishing a meeting on another floor. He greeted Ryan politely before turning to Claire with a warm expression that reflected quiet admiration rather than ownership. They discussed plans for a scholarship program supporting aspiring entrepreneurs who lacked financial resources, speaking with the natural rhythm of two people united by shared values and mutual respect. Ryan watched for only a moment before quietly closing the door behind him. Walking toward the elevator, he understood that Claire no longer needed validation from the man who had once doubted her. She had built a life defined by purpose instead of regret, surrounded by people who respected her character as much as her achievements. For the first time since joining Bennett Innovations, Ryan did not feel bitterness. He felt gratitude that he had witnessed the remarkable truth that genuine success begins the moment a person chooses dignity over resentment and growth over revenge. Spring arrived in Chicago with clear skies and cool mornings, and Bennett Innovations celebrated another year of steady growth with a gathering on the rooftop terrace overlooking the river where the company had first imagined its future. Employees, partners, and community leaders filled the space with easy conversations, quiet laughter, and genuine appreciation for everything they had built together. Claire moved through the crowd without seeking attention, stopping to congratulate interns who had become full-time employees, thanking longtime clients for believing in the company during its earliest days, and listening as scholarship recipients described the dreams they were now pursuing because someone had chosen to believe in them. Ethan remained close enough to offer support whenever needed, yet always allowed Claire to stand in the center of the story she had created through determination and character. Watching them together, people saw a partnership grounded in mutual respect rather than appearances. There was no need for grand declarations because trust revealed itself through ordinary moments. Ryan stood near the edge of the terrace, holding a cup of coffee, quietly observing the life unfolding around him. Months earlier, he would have measured success by titles, expensive offices, and public recognition. Now he noticed different things. He noticed the employees who smiled when Claire approached because they knew she would remember their names. He noticed the maintenance staff greeting her with the same warmth as senior executives because she treated every person with equal dignity. He noticed the confidence that came from someone who no longer needed to prove anything to anyone. During the evening, Claire stepped onto the small stage to thank everyone for another successful year. She spoke about resilience, responsibility, and the importance of creating opportunities for people who simply needed one person willing to believe in their potential. She reminded the audience that every meaningful achievement was built one decision at a time, often during moments when nobody else was watching. When the applause faded, she invited several scholarship recipients forward instead of accepting the spotlight herself. Their excitement became the true celebration of the evening. As the event gradually came to an end, Ryan approached Claire one final time. There was no dramatic confrontation waiting between them, only the quiet understanding that both of their lives had traveled in completely different directions. Ryan thanked her for treating him with fairness when she had every reason to do otherwise. Claire smiled gently and answered that carrying resentment would only have forced her to relive the past forever. She had chosen something better. She had chosen peace. Ryan nodded, understanding that her greatest victory had never been building a successful company or becoming respected throughout the business community. Her greatest victory had been refusing to allow bitterness to become part of the person she was becoming. Ethan walked beside Claire as they left the rooftop together, their conversation drifting naturally toward future projects, new ideas, and the students whose lives might soon change because of another scholarship. Neither of them looked back. Ryan remained where he was for a few quiet moments, watching the lights of the city reflect across the river below. He realized that the woman who had once walked away carrying a single suitcase had never returned to prove him wrong. She had simply continued walking until she found the life she truly deserved. The laughter he had once believed marked the end of her story had become only the first page of a future neither of them could have imagined. Claire did not win by reclaiming the past. She won because she reclaimed herself, and in doing so she discovered that the most powerful answer to disrespect was never revenge. It was a life so full of purpose, dignity, and quiet joy that the past no longer possessed the power to follow her into tomorrow.
Thank you for staying with us until the very end. We hope today's story touched your heart and reminded you that sometimes, losing someone is the beginning of finding yourself again. May you always have the courage to walk away from what hurts you, the strength to begin again, and the happiness you truly deserve. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more unforgettable stories here on After the Divorce Stories. Until next time, take care, and may your next chapter be your best one yet.